Good morning, folks. AI is going to help everyone. And sooner or later, we all are going to use AI in our day-to-day work. Well, if you believe in this video is something which you cannot afford to miss. My name is Maruti Makwana, and I'm going to show you today in this workshop that how exactly AI is going to be useful, what kind of things you can do with AI agents like Microsoft Copilot, and I'm also going to show you what are the do's and don'ts which are associated with AI. But before we start with this, let me just start with my small introduction. I am a Microsoft certified trainer having expertise on Microsoft Azure and AI related technologies. I'm in this field from last 18 years, and these are some of my clients for whom I have delivered sessions in my past. If you ask me what I do, well, I basically train employees and professionals of this or corporate industries. And this channel is something which is I've created with the goal that we are going to provide latest technology specific learning to everyone with as much easiest as possible. And if you want to know more about me, you can just connect with me on LinkedIn. Let's get started with this workshop. The agenda of this particular workshop is we are going to start with introduction to Copilot. And in this, we are going to focus on certain important terminologies which are associated with it, like AI, machine learning, and Gen AI. Now, obviously, understanding artificial intelligence, machine learning, and generative AI is something which is very, very important because these are those fundamental core concepts are going to give you an idea how exactly you can use this AI agents and how you can utilize that in your day-to-day work. We are going to focus on foundation of Copilots, how it is actually built, and based on that, we are going to understand something which is known as prompt engineering. Yes, this is one particular thing which you need to learn as a step number one if you want to use AI agents. I'm going to show you how exactly prompt engineering is working from the background and how we can actually create effective prompts so that we can generate desired content with the help of AI agents. Now, at the end of this, we are also going to focus on certain demos, as well as I'm going to show you a couple of use cases and real world examples associated with this. No matter who you are, if you're a student or maybe you are a working professional working for different organizations, or maybe you are associated with a specific job role task, like maybe you are an HR, or maybe you are a developer, or maybe you are a customer support representative, sales representative, or maybe you are one of the CXO associated with the organization. This particular video is for everyone. So make sure you're going to understand these basic concepts and you're going to use these tools in your work so that you can save a lot of time. So without wasting time, let's get started with this. Now, first of all, if we discuss about what is Copilot, well, Microsoft and everyone is saying that this is an era of Copilot or this is an era of artificial intelligence. Now, when you say what is a Copilot, I just want to tell you one thing that Copilot is like an AI assistant or a real-time collaborator. But I want to add on one thing that remember, Copilot is not a pilot. Basically, you will be the pilot. You will be the one who's actually going to take control of this particular work, and Copilot is there just to help you with a couple of tasks. Now, if you ask me what kind of a task it can do for me, well, it can help you to generate content. It can help you to spark creativity. It can actually also allow you to automate some cognitive tasks like summarization, scheduling, and likewise. It's also going to help you to complete your work in a much faster way. So basically, it's going to help you to save a lot of time in your daily work. Now, why exactly we need to learn this Copilot or any other AI agent? If that is your question, I would like to share one of the survey which was conducted by Microsoft in 2023. Now, this is just a slide which I've taken from that. So this is totally connected with Microsoft slide. And you can see right now it's showing you that 89% of the workers with access to automation and AI powered tools feel more fulfilled because they can spend time on work that truly matters. Now, basically, we all belongs to different roles, belongs to different organizations, and we know that thing that what is that work which truly matters to us. If we can save our time in doing some nonsense repetitive tasks, that's something which is very great. That's where the first advantage or the biggest advantage which you are going to get when you're using any AI agent like Copilot, you will get saved time. So basically, you're going to save a lot of time. You're going to be more agile. You're going to automate your daily task and you're going to make information more accessible. These are those basic advantages which everyone will get if they are going to understand how to use these basic tools. Now, if you have this question that, okay, Microsoft Copilot is that particular word which I heard so many times, but what kind of Copilots are available? Well, the answer is here on screen. As you can see here, we have something which we call Copilot for Web. Basically, it is available on your Microsoft Edge browser and your Bing search engine. You have Copilot for productivity, which is actually Copilots which are available with your Microsoft 365 apps. So whether you are using Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook email, or maybe Microsoft Teams, Copilot is everywhere. Also, if you ask me that what Copilot is doing in all these tools, well, the answer is on the screen itself. You can see the slide is showing you that ultimately Copilot is making things better. So it's going to help you to do a better email management or maybe a better presentation. Same way, it is available with the different tools also. Maybe you belongs to dynamic CRM kind of a configuration. We have Dynamics Copilot. For data analysis, we have Microsoft Fabric with Copilot. For security, we have a security Copilot. If you're a developer and if you want to improvise your coding skills, or maybe you just want to save a lot of time in just doing a repetitive coding task, then you can use GitHub Copilot. We have Power Platform Copilot. We have Microsoft Azure Cloud also available with Copilot, where you can take care of your infrastructure deployments or other resources-specific tasks with the help of Copilot. Last but not the least, if you are an user or a student also who's using Windows 11 operating system, Windows 11 23H2 onwards is actually having Windows Copilot also available inside that. Same way, Microsoft Loop is also having Copilot associated with this. Basically, sooner or later, almost all the products which you're going to use is going to have Copilot associated with that. So it is advisable that you should learn this as soon as possible. Now, because we have so many Copilots, what exactly we are going to do with that and how exactly we are going to use this in our day-to-day work? That is the first question which everyone is going to have in their mind. And to answer this, I have to explain certain basic concepts first. Trust me guys, this next part is very important. If you understand certain basic terminologies, well, not much, only 4 terms. Only 4 terminologies if you understand, which is AI, machine learning, which is ML, then you have something called generative AI, and then you have something which is known as deep learning. If you understand these 4 words, AI, machine learning, generative AI, and deep learning, you will actually be able to understand any of the AI agents which are available in the market as of now, as per the year 2025. Now, that's why let's start with the first thing. What is AI? What is artificial intelligence? Well, the definition says that artificial intelligence is a software that imitates human capabilities. Now, what kind of human capabilities? We all know this thing. We are using modern AI tools like Alexa, or we are also using modern tools like Copilot or maybe ChatGPT. So we know this thing very well, that these kind of tools are actually building a conversation with the end user, and they're trying to mimic human capabilities like speech or maybe giving answers to certain things or analyzing certain things. Now, some of the capabilities which I want to highlight is it can predict outcomes and recognize patterns based on historical data. Remember, we are talking about historical data. It's an important thing that AI is always based on some true historical facts which are associated with that. Recognizing abnormal events and making decisions. It can also help you to interpret visual input. We are talking about visual input. We are not talking about generating images. Visual input means you can provide an input in a form of images, videos, or maybe some camera feed. And when you do that, it's actually capable to interpret that visual input. We will be using understanding language and engaging in the conversation, as well as it can help you to extract information from sources to gain knowledge. These are all some of the capabilities which AI can actually help you to do, but basically it's trying to imitate or mimic human capabilities. That's what AI is all about. Now, if I want to focus on AI is a big thing, and there are so many capabilities which are provided by that. In this short workshop, I'm not able to do that thing. So what exactly we are going to focus today is actually one subset of AI, which is known as generative AI. Yes, this is that subset which is actually focusing on generation of the new original content. This content is going to be available in the form of natural language text, or maybe you can generate images, or you can also generate programming language code. Now, various kind of original content can be generated with the help of generative AI, and that is something which is one of the most useful thing for us. That's the reason we are going to focus on generative AI little in depth in this particular workshop, not on the whole AI actually. Also, with AI and generative AI, we need to understand few more terminologies. Like there is one thing which is known as machine learning. If I focus on machine learning is somehow having roots in data science. I hope we all know that data science is that particular field which is focusing on data analysis. It's trying to understand the relationship between data when you provide a historical data. Machine learning is somehow similar kind of a field associated with data science field, and machine learning is basically focusing on giving learning or training to the machine. That's the reason the name is machine learning. So this is going to create computers which are going to be capable to learn new things. And in order to do this thing, machine learning creates something which we call predictive models. Machine learning is going to create these predictive models which are internally going to use algorithms, some kind of correlations between data they're going to find out, and based on these algorithms is going to find out a relationship between data. These predictive models are actually the root of all the modern AI softwares which you have heard or which you're using in the recent times. Now, somewhere, machine learning is something which is creating this kind of predictive models. But in order to use this with the modern AI softwares, you have to use something which is known as deep learning. Deep learning is that particular part, which is, I can say, subset of machine learning, but this is that particular part which is focusing on mimicking human brains. So basically, deep learning has created some kind of a structure in which they are trying to mimic human brain capabilities. I hope you all know that in our human brain, we have neurons, and those neurons are actually going to process the information. So when you see something, when you hear something, or when you just read something, you're actually able to understand that thing because your human brain neurons are actually processing that information. Even right now also, whatever I'm saying, you're able to understand that because of those neurons only. Deep learning has created some kind of a mechanism which is actually trying to mimic this kind of a human brain neurons capabilities, and that is something which they call neural network. Now I'm going to show you neural network processing in depth in this particular module, but let's focus on this right now, that this is something which is trying to process the information with the help of neural network kind of a thing. We'll see that what is neural network. So these four words which I am just showing you right now, first one AI, second one generative AI, third one machine learning, and fourth one deep learning, are actually the most important part to understand any kind of modern AI agents. Now the obvious question people ask me is, Maruti, do we have any connection between these four words? How these four dots are actually connected? Well, the answer is actually available in the next slide. If you see right now, this slide is giving you answer of two questions: how these four things are connected, or what is the difference between AI and ML. There are many people who are not able to understand the differences between AI and machine learning, and this slide is actually basically showing you that. I know most of you are going to tell me that AI is something which is a very new thing, but the facts are different. Actually, artificial intelligence is not a new thing. It has invented somewhere in 1950s and all. This was the time when we got a definition of artificial intelligence system, which was saying that it is a field of computer science that seeks to create intelligent machines that can replicate or exceed human intelligence. Now, obviously, the artificial intelligence systems which were there at 1950s and all were very different than the latest AI system which we have right now. But somehow it had roots in 1950s and all. Somewhere in 1990s and all, we got something called machine learning. Actually, this was that time when training machines is something which became very popular. In 1990s and all, when we got this machine learning, as I said, it is a subset of AI which is enabling machines to learn. How exactly machines will learn? Machines will learn from the existing data and improve upon the data to make decisions or predictions. So basically, machine learning is the one which is providing data to your machines, and based on that, machines are learning. But then we got something in 2010s and all, which is known as deep learning, and deep learning has changed everything. Deep learning was actually nothing but a specialized machine learning technique. So it is actually going to be based on machine learning only, but in this specialized technique, which is actually going to have layers of neural networks, are going to be used to process the data and make decisions. Obviously, till deep learning kind of a structure which was invented, we were not having some kind of a processing engine which can actually process this data in a much faster way. That's the reason I always count deep learning as a super duper innovation which has actually made the modern AI possible in the recent time. After deep learning and all, everything become easy because processing the data using this kind of a neural network becomes super easy. And that's where we got something which is generative AI. Now, this is a recent buzzword, or it came up just before a few years, and that is what people are actually saying now, AI. Generative AI is one particular part of AI which is focusing on creating new written, visual, and auditory content given based on the prompt or existing data. Remember, this is the first time I'm introducing this term called prompt. Basically, right now, if you want to understand what is a prompt, I will say prompt is nothing but your input text which you're providing to this kind of AI agents. So whatever you're going to type or say is what you're going to provide as an input in the natural language format. That is your prompt. And based on that, your generative AI systems are going to return. And based on that, your generative AI systems are going to return with a specific response. So now, once we know these four things, we know this that generative AI is actually going to focus on generating new content, which is actually internally going to use deep learning, because ultimately processing is going to happen using deep learning only. Then deep learning is nothing but one specialized technique of machine learning. So it is also going to use machine learning model, which are predictive models allowing you to process and predict certain things. And then machine learning is nothing but somehow connected with artificial intelligence, because ultimately it's nothing but a subset of AI. These four dots which we are connecting right now is something which is very important for you to understand. And that is exactly what we are doing right now. Now, once you understand these four things, generative AI, deep learning, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, this is a time we have to understand, so what kind of common AI workloads which are available as of this year, 2025. So let's say the first thing which we have here is again machine learning only. So if you ask me what kind of AI workloads we have today, Maruti, the first one is still machine learning. And I always say this thing that machine learning is going to help you to create predictive models. And that's why I say this thing that this is nothing but a foundation for AI. This is basically a foundation for AI. So this is the one which is running in the background for every modern AI software. Remember that. All other things which I'm showing you here, other than machine learning, all the below things which I'm showing you, you can see I'm highlighting one word here, which is capabilities. All other four things are nothing but capabilities only, which we are actually using in our modern AI systems. Like we have a computer vision capability. This is that specific capability which is focusing on interpreting world visually. Basically, you're going to provide input through images, videos, or camera, and this is going to help you to interpret that. That's what computer vision is doing. Then you have natural language processing capability, which is focusing on interpreting written or spoken languages and is going to respond appropriately. Almost all the modern chatbots are actually doing something which is nothing but natural language processing. Then you have document intelligence capability. Maybe individuals are not going to use document intelligence, but organizations are using this extensively, because this is a specific capability which is focusing on managing and processing using high volumes of data which is found in the forms and documents. Digital forms, physical forms kind of a documents you can use and associate with document intelligence systems. Then we have knowledge mining, which is actually a concept, but in the background we have a service associated with that called AI search. Knowledge mining capability is helping you to extract information from the large volume of unstructured data, and then is going to make that data much more meaningful, searchable, using something called knowledge store. This is also one of the concepts which organizations are using extensively, and you will be having unstructured data also in the searchable format using this. And then last but not the least, we have generative AI, which is a specialized capability which is focusing on creating original content. Remember, this is going to create original content, is not copying content from somewhere internet sources. It's going to create an original content in the variety of formats like natural language text, images, code, videos, and many more. In this particular video today, I'm not able to focus on each and other capability which is available here. If you are interested in a specific capability like computer vision or document intelligence, you can check out our Skill Tech Club YouTube channel, and we have videos on every capability available here. But in this particular video, because this is just a beginning, I'm going to focus on machine learning concepts only conceptually, and I'm going to focus on generative AI conceptually and practically. So this is where our focus is. Let's move forward to the next thing where we need to understand machine learning conceptually. Okay, now this slide is actually talking about what is machine learning. Now, obviously, we know that machine learning is going to create predictive models for us, but what I want you to understand here is the process of machine learning. And that's why you can see here we have stepwise 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. Step number 1 is actually talking about that we are going to have a data which we have collected from the past observations. Now, when I say past observations, it can be a data which we have collected from last few weeks or maybe last few years. This data we are going to provide as an input into this particular process. Most of the time, this data is going to have two things inside that. is going to have values, which normally we call features, and is going to have labels associated with those values. So features and labels are going to be there as a data. This values and the label associated with that is what we are going to add on into this particular system. And the second step, which is actually going to be some kind of algorithms are going to be applied on that. So on top of your data, we are going to apply some algorithms, and the goal of these algorithms is mostly going to find out the relationship between X and Y. So how these values are actually related to that particular label is what these algorithms are going to find out. Once this process is done, we are going to get something which we call predictive models. Now, these machine learning models are basically nothing but some kind of a logic. Every time we understand this thing, that every time when we have a logic, we provide some kind of an input, we execute the logic, and we are going to get some output. This is also that kind of a logical function. This function is going to take your values as an input, and once you provide these values as an input into the function, it's going to process that, and it's going to give you an output, which is nothing but the predicted label. This process is what your model is going to do, and that's why we call it predictive models. Now, every time when you're using machine learning, this is the same process which is going to be followed, and ultimately you're going to get one logical function, which is your model. Now, the obvious question people ask me at this time is, Maruti, what kind of algorithms are going to be applied in that? Well, most of the time these are going to be statistical and mathematical algorithms, but if you want to understand this algorithm properly, you need to understand something which is known as types of machine learning. So we understood the process somehow, very high level overview I'm showing you right now, but we understand the process of machine learning with these 4 steps. If that is the case, then we need to understand something which is called types of machine learning. Now, this slide is actually showing you that there are 2 types of machine learning which is available. You have supervised machine learning, and that is something which is going to be based on a data which is having known labels associated with that. So basically, if you have data with labels, you're going to do supervised machine learning. And if you have data which is having unlabeled data with that, so basically it's not having labels, then you're going to do unsupervised machine learning. Now, both of the types are equally important. Let's say we want to understand and do supervised machine learning first. In supervised machine learning, we have different types again. So we have some types like segregation, classification. Now, each type here is actually focusing on predicting some kind of a label associated with that. For example, regression type of algorithms are actually focusing on predicting a label which is always going to predict a numeric value associated with that, which means it's always going to give you one answer, which is nothing but a number. Let me give you an example to simplify this process. Like in this, I'm showing you an example that you want to predict the number of ice creams which are sold based on the particular day. Now, let's say I want to find out this thing for an ice cream shop business. And if I provide some data like current temperature, weather information, or some festival kind of a date, then when you do this thing, we want to see how many number of ice cream will be sold on that particular day. Obviously, the answer of this is going to be one number, the number of ice creams. Or maybe if I give you another example, let's say you want to find out a price of a property which you want to sell. So let's say in the real estate, you want to sell the price of the property, and you're going to provide some kind of an input information like size in the square feet, number of bedrooms, or maybe some social economic metrics associated with that. But when you're providing this thing, it's going to give you the exact price on which you can sell that property. Now, that selling price of the property is also nothing but a number. So when you have this kind of things, you're going to use regression kind of algorithms, and it's going to give you a predicted number associated with that, which is always a numeric value. On the other hand, sometimes we have to do classification. Now, classification is always going to predict a label which will tell you that a particular data belongs to which class. In that also, we have further types like we have binary classification and multi-class classification. As the name suggests, binary classification is going to find out that the particular data belongs to which class, either 1 or 2. It's always going to have 2 options in that. And then it's going to be mostly like true, false kind of thing. Like I'm giving you an example here that let's say you want to predict whether a patient is at having a risk of diabetes based on his clinical data. So let's say you're going to provide a patient information data like his age, his weight, his blood glucose, and when you provide these details, it's going to predict whether the patient is having a risk of diabetes or not. Now, obviously, there is no third option here. It's going to give you either true or false kind of 2 options, and one of them is going to pick. So that is why this is something which is binary classification. On the other hand, sometimes we have more than one class associated with that. And at that time, you have to go for multi-class classification. Let me give you an example of multi-class classification also. In this case, let's say you want to predict the species of a penguin based on this measurement. Now, penguins are actually having different species, like we have species like Adelie, Gentoo, Chinstrap. Now, don't worry, I'm not very expert of penguin species, but in this example, let's say we have different species of penguin, and then we want to provide different kind of an information. Like I want to provide penguin's flipper size, or maybe I want to provide penguin's weight, penguin's height, and other information. When I provide this thing, it's going to predict that this particular penguin belongs to which species. Now, this can have multiple classes, so it can have multiple species associated with that, and it's going to pick one of them as a predicted label. Or if I give you a simplified example, don't get confused with penguins. Let's say everyone's favorite is movies. So let's say you want to find out a genre of a movie based on some input values which you're going to provide. When you provide the movie details, it's going to give you whether this movie belongs to comedy, horror, romance, science fiction. It's actually going to give you this information, and that is also nothing but multi-class classification, because ultimately that movie will belongs to one of the class from the multiple options. So when you have two options, two classes, go for binary classification. When you have more than two classes, you go for multi-class classification. This is how simple it is. Then sometimes, as we said, we do not have a data with labels. And when you have unlabeled data, you have to focus on unsupervised machine learning. One specialized type of unsupervised machine learning is clustering, in which we try to find similarities between items and we try to group them. Now, these clustering kind of algorithms are mostly going to find similarities, and because the data label is not there, the initial goal of clustering kind of algorithm is to find the initial label associated with that. For example, I'm giving you an example where we want to have a data of, let's say, separate plants. Let's say you have a data of hundreds of plants information, and you want to find out the similarities between these plants, and based on that, you want to group them first. So I'm going to do what? I'm going to provide some data like what kind of a flower this plant is having, what kind of leaves are there, how many leaves are there, what is the size of the leaf, what is the size of the petal. Now all this information we are going to provide into this, and based on that we want to group those plants based on the similarities. At the end of this, based on the grouping, you are actually going to get at least similar 3 to 5 groups, and then based on those groups you're going to give them some label. That initial label is going to help you to further process the data using supervised machine learning. So basically, this is how the process works. If you ask me this obvious question which people ask me is that how many total number of algorithms are there in machine learning? Well, there are hundreds of. If you're using something called Azure machine learning kind of services and all, you'll be able to use those machine learning algorithms. But right now, it is out of the scope of this particular thing, so I'm not going into that right now. We have different types of machine learning algorithms, and based on the goal, based on the label which you want to predict, you can actually pick which one is perfect for yours. Now, once we have this information that what is machine learning and how the process is working and what types of machine learnings are there, you need to understand this slide. Now, this is actually a slide which is combining whatever we have understood so far. If you focus on the slide, I have training data, which is in the step number 1. But remember, in this data, when we have features and label, initially when we do the machine learning model training process, it's actually going to divide the data into 2 parts. We are going to divide data into some kind of a ratio. Let's say I'm saying 80-20 kind of a ratio I'm going to do. 80% data I'm going to provide for model training, and 20% data I'm going to keep it aside for validation purpose. When we are doing this thing, this 80% data is going to be used in the process, and on top of it, we are going to apply some algorithms. Once the algorithms are applied, once the process is done, it's going to create what? It's going to create my model. And as I told you already, model is nothing but some kind of a logic. So we want to check before we give this particular model to our customers or before we associate this with our AI systems. We want to check whether this model is performing well or not. Now, in that case, we are going to try this model with this validation data which we have kept aside initially. Because this validation data is already having known labels associated with that, we will apply this particular data into this particular function and we will try to get the new labels. And why we are doing this thing? Well, because we want to evaluate model. We want to compare the predicted labels to actual labels. And if both are matched, then it means my model is predicting correct things. If both are not matched, then it means that my model is not performing well. Now, in real time, your data scientists are actually going to do this job, and they are going to check a couple of metrics. There is something called confusion metrics, precision curve, AOC curve. There are so many things which they are going to check. But based on that, they are going to evaluate model, and they are going to check whether the model is performing well or not. If model is performing well, we can use that model for our AI software applications. But if model is not performing well, you have to maybe repeat this process multiple times. You're maybe going to redo the same thing by adding more amount of data, by applying different kind of algorithms in step number 2, and you're going to do the model evaluation once again. Now this evaluation you're going to do until you're getting best performing model. Maybe this process you have to repeat 4 times, 5 times or more. That is something which is a task of your data scientist, and that's what machine learning is actually doing. Ultimately, at the end of this machine learning process, you are going to get one good performing model, and that model is what we are going to use with our AI systems. I hope this concept of machine learning is clear. Intentionally, I'm not going very in-depth because this video is for everyone. So I'm not focusing only on the technical concepts. This technical concept is something which is simple to understand, even if you belong to any particular domain of the industry. Keeping that in mind, let's move forward to the next thing, which is deep learning. As I say, deep learning is that particular part of machine learning which is focusing on mimicking human brain capabilities. So basically, deep learning has created something which is known as neural network, or if I be specific, this is something which is known as deep neural network, DNN. For your kind information, neural network has also gone through an evolution in the history. Initially, there were some neural networks which were known as RNN, recurrent neural network. Then we got something called LSTM. Then we got something which is called CNN, convolutional neural network. There are different kind of neural network came up. The one which we are using right now with the modern generative AI application is deep neural network, because this is actually trying to create something like a human brain capability. So basically they have created what? They have created some kind of a network of multiple neural nodes, which are nothing but some kind of a small computers. Now you can think like this right now, that you are going to have some kind of a model logic, and that model logic which you have created with the help of machine learning model, you are actually going to execute. When you execute this function, you're going to provide values into that. And with those values, we want to check whether this model is predicting proper or not. That's why we are going to apply some kind of a weight associated with that. These different weights we want to associate with this logical function execution. And we want to execute this function maybe hundreds of times so that we can check for different values and we can actually associate that which is the right label which we are predicting. Now I know this sounds confusing. Let me just simplify this with the examples which we have seen so far. So have a look at this slide. In this slide, if you check right now, I'm showing you an example of multi-class classification, which is the same example of that penguin kind of a thing. And then I'm showing you how exactly deep neural network is going to process that. From the left side, you're going to provide some data. Now let's say you are providing some penguin measurement data here. Assume that x1 is something which is the length of the penguin's flipper, x2 is something which is the depth of the penguin's flipper, same way maybe x4 is something which is weight of the penguin. Now all these things you're providing as an input, and then once you provide that input data, this each blue dot which is here is nothing but a small kind of a compute node that's going to execute this functional logic on that data, and is going to apply different kind of a weight with that. Throughout this process, in this diagram right now, maybe we have 15 to 20 nodes only. But in real neural network, you're going to have hundreds of nodes. These hundreds of nodes are going to process this information, is going to execute this thing parallelly, and then is going to pass on that to the further nodes. This kind of a multi-parallel process is what we are able to do with the help of deep neural network. So remember, deep neural networks are helping you to do what? Processing the data in a much faster way. In the modern AI agents like Copilot and all, I hope you agree with me that when you provide your prompt by typing some natural language input, it's actually going to give you response within fraction of seconds. Suppose if you say, I want to write a blog, maybe a 500-word blog on a specific topic, it's actually going to do that thing in few seconds only. How exactly it's going to understand that? How exactly it's going to process that? Obviously, there should be a faster processing engines which are running in the background. Well, those engines are actually nothing but this deep neural network kind of nodes. Now, based on this processing, in this case, it's actually able to predict that out of the 3 species of penguin, maybe there are 70% chances are there that this penguin belongs to one particular species which is there. Maybe this is a Gen 2 species of the penguin. Now, this is how the processing is going to be working. Now, if I connect all these dots, remember guys, generative AI is what we are going to use, which is actually a subset of AI. But if you want to use generative AI in the background, machine learning has created model for that. And those models are actually going to be useless if you cannot process the data with a much faster way. That processing is something which is provided by deep neural network. So basically the model logic of machine learning and the processing of deep learning neural network is what which is combined and giving you the response associated with that. I hope you're able to understand this. Still, in all these things, if you are getting confused or if you have any questions, feel free to ask me a question in the comment of this particular video. I'm always there to answer that. With this, now let's move forward to the next and the important slide, which is talking about generative AI. Okay, now if we talk about what is generative AI, which is the final dot which we need to connect, then we need to understand something which is known as language model. Now let me tell you one thing, that language model is actually that commonly known word which is used for all the machine learning models which are used with generative AI. Now, some people ask me this question also, that why we call this model language model, even though this can generate natural language text, images, programming language code, and even videos also. Why we call it still language model? Well, the answer is language model is called language model because you are ultimately going to provide input in the natural language text, because it's always going to take input in the natural language text. Now you can see some examples here. Like let's say if I want to do some natural language input, like write a cover letter for a job application. Now when I do this thing, it understands that the response which I'm expecting is a cover letter. So it's going to give me a response in the language and it's going to give me the response associated with that. While on the other hand, if I say create a logo for a florist business, it's actually going to give me an image which is a logo of the florist business. Remember, the response is in the various format, but the input is always in the natural language text. And that's the reason we call this thing language model. Same way for the programming language things also, I can say write a Python code to add 2 numbers, and then it's going to give me that kind of a logic generated with that. In all these cases, this input text which you're providing is something which is known as prompt, and that's always going to be in the natural language text. That's why the models are actually known as language models. Now at this particular point, I want to ask you one question. Guys, I'm going to ask you one simple question based on the language model, and that is, I'm sure that you all know ChatGPT. And if you already know ChatGPT, anyone knows what is GPT stands for? Just pause this video for 5 to 20 seconds and just try to think about this particular answer, guys. Do you know what is GPT stands for? I know you all are knowing ChatGPT, you have used it, but do you know what is GPT stands for? Well, maybe some of you have guessed the answer. Let me tell you, in GPT, G stands for generative, P stands for pre-trained. So this is generative because it's a generative AI model. It is pre-trained because it's trained based on machine learning concept. And then there is a T, which is known as transformer. Now the obvious thing which we need to know next is why the hell we are calling this thing transformer. Yes, this is generative model. Yes, this is pre-trained model. Why they are calling this thing transformer? Well, because all the modern language models are based on something which is known as transformer architecture. Let me show you that. Now this particular slide which I'm showing you right now is showing you how exactly transformer model architecture works. Now let me tell you one warning here first. Transformer model architecture is one of the most complex things of generative AI. Yes. Normally when I do corporate session for my clients for mostly 3 to 4 days kind of a duration, transformer model architecture is what I covered for more than 2 to 3 hours. So basically this is that big. What I'm going to show you right now is a high level overview. I'm going to show you very high level overview of a transformer model architecture in this, because this video is created for beginner audience. So remember, what I'm going to show you is maybe a bird's eye view kind of a very high level overview of transformer model architecture. If you want to know more in-depth kind of a details, if you're a tech person, you can just comment down in this video that create a separate video on transformer model architecture. I'll give you an in detail description of the transformer model components in that separate video. Right now, in this particular slide, we need to understand that how transformer model architecture based language models are actually allowing us to use AI agents, and with that we can actually do prompt engineering. So basically, the step number one which you need to understand here is transformer models are actually having two different parts inside that, encoder part and decoder part. Encoder part is actually responsible for processing the input which you're providing. So basically, when you provide a natural language input, which we call prompt, how exactly the transformer model is going to understand that? That is something which is done by encoder part. So understanding the intent of the user, what user is trying to say, what kind of a context is associated with that, all these things will be understood by encoder part. And then based on that understanding, whatever generative response we want to create in a form of language, in a form of image or anything else, that generation of the response is going to be done by the decoder part. Now, if I focus on encoder part first, encoder part is actually going to use something which is known as tokens as vectors. Basically, whatever input prompt which I'm going to provide in the natural language text, that is going to be converted into something called tokens. And that process is actually known as tokenization. To understand encoder, let's have a look at the tokenization first. As you can see here, I'm providing some kind of an input statement like, I heard a dog bark loudly at a cat. When I provide this input text, it's actually going to convert this statement into tokens. And each word or a part of the word is going to be converted into a separate token. Now in real time, actually, if you want to understand tokenization properly, you actually have to understand that how it is converting that. In real cases, it's not going to be like it's going to create some kind of a numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Basically, it's going to generate some kind of a unique token ID associated with that. In that also, when you have repeated words, like for example, in this case, I have a word A. So I heard a dog and then I'm saying loudly at a cat. So the A is something which is repeated twice. And remember, the A is not tokenized twice, is actually going to be tokenized once only, which is with the token number 3, something like that. Now, let me give you a real-time scenario of this thing with a real tokenization on Azure OpenAI website. Now you can see right now I have opened one URL which is platform.openai.com/tokenizer. I hope you all know that OpenAI is a company behind ChatGPT, and this is a company which was initially founded by Sam Altman and Elon Musk. Now, obviously, I do not want to go in depth into OpenAI, but I'm showing you one of the page on OpenAI.com only, which is showing you how exactly language model tokenization is actually working. Now, in order to understand this, let me provide some kind of an input text here. Let's say I'm providing some text like, I am learning AI with Maruti Makwana. I'm putting my name. So I'm learning AI with Maruti Makwana, and I will love to use AI with Copilot in my daily work. I added the statement here, and the moment I'm done with this typing, you can see exactly below that is showing me that this statement is converted into 24 tokens, 94 characters. They are showing me each token differently with the different color in the below section. Not only that, if I focus on the token IDs, just focus on this, each word, each character is actually somehow, when it's converted into token, is using a unique token ID associated with that. Now, I has a token ID 40, M has a token ID 939, and same way if I go further, I think 20837 is a token ID which is used for the word AI. Now, if you focus on this, the word AI is used twice in this statement. I have used it intentionally twice, and this fourth one, which is 20837 token for the AI, has to be available somewhere else once again, which is here. So in this array of token, because AI is actually something which was used twice, it has not created a new token for that. It is just creating a same token and using it twice. This kind of an array of token is what you're going to send to your language model. So basically, you're going to provide an input text only. But step number one is going to convert the text into tokens, and the token array is going to be sent to the language model, and then it's going to be further processed. Now, what further processing is going to do? Let's focus on that. In order to understand further processing, we have to go back to the transformer model architecture diagram. After that tokens are created, so once your text is converted into tokens, they are going to put these tokens into some kind of a three-dimensional vector. Sorry, multi-dimensional vector. It's going to be even more than 3 dimensions. But to understand this thing, we are just going to keep a three-dimensional cube here. You can see I'm just trying to show you here that based on the token is actually going to see how one token is related to the other tokens. So let's say we have a token for a word called dog. It's going to point out this particular dog word in that particular three-dimensional space, and then let's say that this is a dot which is actually representing dog. Then you have another word which is cat. Then it's going to represent that, okay, cat and dog both are animals, so maybe these are going to be another dot which is going to be nearby because both are actually animals. And then we have another word called puppy. Now puppy and dog both are same thing. That's why they're maybe going to put puppy and dog in the same line, but then puppy is nothing but a younger dog, so it's going to put another dot there. Now this kind of representation in the multi-dimensional space is actually going to give an understanding to this language model that how this one token is connected with the other token. Basically connecting all these dots is actually going to understand the context of your input prompt. This is how your language model understands. Remember that. Suppose if you have one particular word like skateboard, skateboard is not even a living thing, okay? And that's the reason they are putting it somewhere in the different dimension altogether, that this is a skateboard. Now, whenever you're going to provide an input prompt, maybe it's just a one-liner, or maybe it's going to be a more complex with multi-lines and more details like that, it's actually going to put that thing into this kind of a multi-dimensional space. And based on that, it's going to understand what is your context, what kind of an intent you have, and based on that, it's going to do the generation part using decoder. Now, there is one more question which my students ask me a couple of times, that Maruti, sometimes if I just rephrase my question in the Copilot or in other AI generative tools, actually, it's going to give me a better answer. It's going to give me a different answer sometimes. Why is this happening? Well, the answer is here on this particular screen. When you rephrase your question, or when you use a different kind of words in that particular question by just proving the same point, you are actually going to give more context, or you're actually going to give more tokens into that prompt, based on which it's actually able to understand that particular input prompt properly. Until unless your transformer model is not going to be understanding this particular input, it cannot generate a desired output in a better way. And that is the reason, guys, prompt engineering is very important thing for everyone who wants to use AI. I hope you understood encoder decoder part. Now, I'm not going into decoder very in depth right now. It also has something called attention blocks and a couple of other things with that. I do not want to go into that right now in this particular video, but I hope you understood the encoder and decoder part. With this, let's move forward to the next part of the generative AI. So tokenization is something which you understood. What is a token? I hope you understood that also. I have not explained this as a definition, but if you see right now, it's a token, which is nothing but a fundamental unit of text that represents a sequence of characters, often a word or a part of the word kind of a thing, which is used by models to process and generate text. If you want, you can also go to this URL and you can try different text with different kind of generative AI models which are available with ChatGPT. This is a screenshot of what I have shown you in that. Now let's move forward to next thing in language models. So we understood one thing, that we have language models which are based on transformer model architecture, and almost all modern generative AI systems are actually having this kind of language models running in the background. But when you're going to use this thing, you actually have two different options available to you. First option is, yes, you can train your own language model from scratch. Like, let's say you have a team of data scientists in your organization. You also have your own data, which is a historically huge data which you have collected from the past observations, and you want to train the model from scratch. You can do that, but that's going to be time consuming, and it's going to be a lot, many things which you have to take care of. As well as it's going to be expensive also. That's the reason number of organizations who wants to use generative AI, they use something which is known as foundation models. Most generative AI solutions are going to use this kind of foundation models as a base, and then if they want, they can actually fine-tune those models with their own data. Remember, fine-tune is another concept. which is like you're going to provide your own data on these language models and then you can customize it. Now, how to do fine tuning with the language models? If you don't know that thing, well, in that case, you should check out this video, which is available on the same YouTube channel, Skill Tech Club, and I'm sure you're going to love it. Now, we do not want to fine tune the model right now, but if you want to use a foundation model, then the first thing which you have to keep in mind is which foundation model you're going to use. Obviously, Azure OpenAI, which is a combined service provided with Microsoft Azure Cloud and OpenAI, is going to provide multiple foundation models from OpenAI to you. You can use GPT models, which are ChatGPT 3, 3.5, 4, 4.0, and 4.5. All these models you can use with Azure OpenAI. You can use embedding models also. Some people do not know, but there are some embedding models also which were available before ChatGPT. So there were models like Ada, Babbage, Curie. All those models are available in this. You can also use DALL-E models, which are models for generating images, and you can use Whisper models also, which are for speech recognition. Which Azure OpenAI models you're going to use, it obviously depends on your requirement, on your generative AI tool which you want to associate with that, but you can use any of those OpenAI models. Not only that, suppose if you say I do not want to use OpenAI models for some reason, can I use some other models? Yes. As of now, Microsoft is having a service which is called Azure AI Foundry. And I always say this is a portal. So Azure AI Foundry is one portal under which you have hundreds of language models available. For your kind of information, guys, this is a lot more. If you want to use a language models from Microsoft, or you want to use language model from OpenAI, Hugging Face, Mistral, Meta models, which is a new name of Facebook, or Databricks model, even the latest DeepSeek models are also available on Azure AI Foundry portal. Now, let me give you a sneak peek of that. I'm not going to go in depth in that, I promise, because this video is for beginner audience. But just for your kind of information, if you just go to this URL, which is ai.azure.com, you will get a section which is known as model catalog. And you can see right now, this is that page. This page is showing you that you have 1900 models as of now. At the time of the recording of this video, you have 1900 models available in this one particular page. You have models from ChatGPT, you have models from Meta, which is Llama model, you have Microsoft 5 models, you have models from Gradle, you have models from Stable, you have models from Minstrel, even your DeepSeek model, DeepSeek R1, DeepSeek V3, you have multiple models which are available here. Not only that, you can actually compare models here. So which model is going to be better for you in terms of cost, in terms of latency, in terms of capabilities which it is providing. You can actually compare these hundreds of models and you can deploy them within few seconds. Not only that, you can see they are showing you something which is known as model leaderboards. In this model leaderboards, they are actually going to give you different models based on which models are perfect for what kind of scenarios. So maybe you want to focus on quality, or maybe you want to focus on cost, or maybe throughput, or maybe there are so many other factors in which they are comparing and they are showing you which models are going to be better for you. Now, obviously, this is a tough job. Finding a good model from this list of models is something which is a tough job, but once you get this thing, everything else is going to be easy, because foundation model is going to save you a lot of time as well as a lot of cost also associated with that. As of now, we are not going very in-depth in this, but if you are interested in any particular model, or if you want me to record a special video on how exactly we can compare the models and how we can analyze that which model will be the right choice for us in the requirement, just do let me know. I'll create a separate video for you on that. Now, after all these things, let's understand one thing here, that we have different types of model also. We have large language model, which is obviously another buzzword which maybe you heard about, which is known as LLM. And we have a small language model also. So like in the previous one, when I was showing you that we have hundreds of models, not all of those models are actually large language models, because large language models are mostly trained with the large volume of data. And with that, we are going to have billions or trillions of parameters on which it got trained. On the other hand, we have small language models which are trained with very focused amount of data, and it's going to have fewer parameters associated with that. Some of the examples of large language models are GPT-4. GPT-4 is one of the largest language model with 1.7 trillion parameters on which it got trained. On the other hand, if you go with Microsoft 5.3, Microsoft 5.4, or Hugging Face GPT Neo, these are those small language models which are limitedly created with the small amount of data, but it is mostly going to be focusing on one specialized context only. Basically, small language models are just going to be focusing on the specialized context, and it has the generation capabilities limited to that context only. On the other hand, large language models are going to be comprehensive language generation capabilities will be there, and is going to be focusing on multiple contexts as well. Both are there with pros and cons. So maybe you are going to go with large language model, but there are some issues with that. Like, because of the large size, it can impact the performance and portability. Even when you want to do a fine tuning with the large language model, is going to be an expensive thing because it's going to take a lot of time. A large language model fine tuning can take few hours, even sometimes few days. On the other hand, small language models are going to be faster, portable, less expensive if you want to do a fine tuning with your own data. So choice is yours. You have to figure out which one you have to use based on the requirement. Now, after all this, let's focus on our main important topic, which is Copilot. So guys, up to this point, you understood that we have language model, we have generative AI, we have machine learning and all those things. Now, if you ask me what is Copilot, or if I ask this question online, Microsoft is going to say that Microsoft Copilot is a generative AI app that is integrated into a wide range of Microsoft applications and user experiences. And we already know this thing because I have already shown you the flavors of Copilot which are available in various tools. So this is going to help you in all these tools actually. But then the question is how exactly you're going to use it. There is one common question which organization people ask me actually, that where exactly or what level of adoption we need to do with the Microsoft Copilot and generative AI. Well, the answer is here on screen. If you are focusing on different level of adoptions of generative AI in your business, in your organization, you have to actually focus on the three level of adoption which are available. Now, obviously, the first level of adoption is you can actually use Microsoft Copilot kind of off-the-shelf kind of generative AI applications in your organization. In this case, you don't need to worry about model training. You don't need to worry about customization. You can use Microsoft Copilot to optimize the way you work in your tools with your everyday kind of day-to-day work. It's going to empower your employees to become more creative. You're going to spend less time in so many time consuming tasks, and then it's going to be, and your employees can be focusing on high impact activities only. Now, this is going to be the first level of adoption, and that is something which is one of the easiest one. There are a number of organizations which are right now on the stage one, and that's what they are doing when they are incorporating copilots into their organization. The second thing is you can extend Microsoft Copilot for your business using integration with the business specific task, your business processes, your organization specific data. You can integrate those things with Microsoft Copilot, and based on that, you can actually get actionable insights from your own data. It's going to help you to improvise the productivity associations with your productivity apps in your organization, and that extension is something which is your level 2. Now, other than this, you can go with the third option also, which is like you can build your own Copilot-like agents. AI agent development is also one of the latest and most important thing of the recent time. If you want to develop Copilot-like agents by yourself, you can integrate generative AI into your custom workloads and applications. You can create compelling customer experiences and commercial products for your organization, for your customers actually. And this is the third and the final option in which you are actually going to have full control over the design and development. Remember, the third option is giving you full control on everything, but this is also the one which is the most complex, time consuming and expensive, because you're going to have a dedicated team who's actually going to develop this kind of a Copilot like agent. The easiest one is obviously the level 1, and the toughest one, or the one which is giving you the maximum control, is going to be the third one. Which one you're going to use in your organization? Well, that obviously depends on the requirement, but I mostly say that your organizations are always going to start with the first level, and then they're going to eventually move on to the other if they need that. Okay, now before we proceed to use prompt engineering techniques with Microsoft Copilot, the one and only important thing which is remaining is principles of responsible AI. This is undoubtedly one of the most important topic of artificial intelligence. Guys, anyone who's using AI should use responsibly. And that's what every organization, including Microsoft, every country, including India, US, Europe, all these countries are actually focusing on this very well. Now, there are 6 different principles of responsible AI which are available on screen right now, which you need to be very aware, and you need to use AI wisely using these principles. And that's the reason you need to understand this thing properly. Now, you can see right now there are 6 different principles which are there. Fairness is talking about that your AI system should not be biased. So basically, they're giving you example of everything in the right side. Like maybe you have developed a loan approval system, and based on that loan approval system, if you have trained that based on some biased data, then it is going to give you a result which is also going to be biased. Like they're giving you an example like a loan approval model which discriminates by gender due to a bias in the data in which it was trained. If that kind of things are there, it's not a good AI system. Same way, you have to take care of second principle, which is reliability and safety. So there are chances that your AI system can cause some kind of an error, and because of those errors, it can cause harm to a human being. Like an example, we have an autonomous vehicle experiencing a system failure, and it can cause a collision. If this kind of things are there, it's a bad thing. So you have to make sure that you are doing all the reliability and safety checks before you're giving it to your users. Third one is privacy and security. Obviously, data privacy is a very important thing, especially in certain domains like healthcare and finance. Now, they are giving an example like a medical diagnostic bot, which is trained using sensitive patient data, which is stored insecurely. If that kind of thing is there, again, that's a bad thing. Fourth one is inclusiveness. Maybe your solution may not work for everyone. If that kind of case is there, you have to make sure that your AI system should empower everyone. Now, let's say there is an example that you have created a predictive app which provides no audio output for visually impaired users. If again that is there, then blind people will not be able to use that application. Fifth one, which is transparency. The user must be trusting your complex system. AI systems are most of the time very complex. And if there is a complex, people will not believe, people will not trust on that system. If that is the case, that's a bad thing again. Like maybe you have an AI-based financial tool which is making an investment recommendations. When this kind of thing is there, you have to be very clear on what kind of recommendations are based on this. So basically what data you have used to train that model, you have to be very specific and crystal clear on that. Then only people or users will trust on that. Last but the most important one, accountability. Let's say you develop an AI application or you are using an AI application and you are taking care of first 5 principles. Still, something can go wrong. If anything is going wrong with AI systems, who is accountable for that? A company who has developed that application? A government who has allowed that application? Who's responsible? Like for example, an innocent person is convicted of a crime based on an evidence from facial recognition, which was maybe faulty. If that is there, who's responsible for that? The 6 principles are actually those principles which Microsoft and every other organization who's using AI agents or developing AI agents are taking it very seriously. For example, right now I'm showing you a URL which is microsoft.com/US AI principles and approach. If you go into this particular URL, it's basically talking about those 6 different principles which I have told you: fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. And not only the 6 principles, is actually showing you the real-time use cases, some of the videos, some blogs, some articles, some white papers in which they are actually trying to highlight what are the right ways to use AI with this. Now, let's say if I focus on reliability and safety right now, and if I say I want to see reliability and safety in action, it's going to take me to a page where I can see some videos. It's going to show me certain maybe examples where I can take care of reliability and safety in my applications. These principles of responsible AI are the most important things which you have to keep in mind before you actually use generative AI in your organization. And that's why I strongly recommend everyone to go through this website at least once and check these 6 different principles in depth before you use any generative AI tool. Now, let's say you understood responsible AI, but not everyone in your organization is actually familiar with that. That's the reason you have to take 2 steps in your organization before using any generative AI tool. Step number 1, you have to establish a system for AI governance. Now, there are multiple ways to do this thing. Let's say your organization is going to hire or is going to decide that there will be one chief ethics officer who will be part of the organization. This chief ethics officer is going to be one of the centralized way to take decisions about responsible AI. Basically, this will be one person who's going to be accountable for all AI specific decisions and usage in the organization. Or maybe you want to go for the distributed way for this, you can go for ethics office or ethics committee in your organization. Ethics office is going to have dedicated ethics team for different levels of the organization. Basically, these people will be internal team members only, but they are going to be focusing on ensuring the ethical principles which are being followed by all the employees in the organization. Or maybe you can go with ethics committee, in which even external people can also be part of the committee. They are going to provide perspectives from people with a wide range of diverse background and expertise, unbiased opinions from external members, and buy-in from senior leaders across the company. No matter which way you're going to go on, you're maybe going to have chief ethics officer or ethics office and ethics committee also with that. Whichever way you're going to focus on, you also have to take certain actions for AI governance in your organization. Now, let's say you are going to do the first action, which is like you're going to make resources available for your employees, for your customers. Maybe a handbook, maybe a manual, or maybe you can just have a training sessions for them so that they will be familiar with governance of AI and responsible AI guidelines. Or maybe you can share my video also with them so that they can understand all these things. You should have a centralized repository for a couple of AI related inventory mechanisms. So maybe you have document of all AI models associated with that so that everyone in the organization should be able to check those things and they can understand that very well. Also, you need to develop certain tools which can actually help you to automate the system of monitoring with the AI governance. Anytime if anyone is not following the AI governance guidelines, that reporting tool should have some notification, some alert mechanism by which maybe it's going to notify to chief ethics officer or to the ethics committee about the compliance issues which are generated because of generative AI. Now, these kind of actions and those kind of setup, if you do in your organization, then you can say that your organization is ready for generative AI tools. Now, before we proceed further, I just want to add on some of the limitations of AI systems. Now, remember, there is the first limitation of AI, which is known as AI hallucination. AI hallucination is actually that particular issue because of which AI systems can actually give you false or misleading AI responses. Like if I go to my copilot.microsoft.com, this is a URL based on which I can get my Copilot inside the browser. Now, as you can see right now, even on the home page where they are showing me that what's on your mind today, Maruti, is I can put a prompt here. But exactly if you focus on the below of this particular page, it's showing me what? Copilots may make mistakes. So remember, even Microsoft and everyone who's developing a generative AI application knows that the generative AI can have certain limitations and issues. AI hallucination is one of them. Now, if you ask me what kind of causes which can cause AI hallucination, well, first of all, remember there are chances that the models on which the AI systems are based are actually having incomplete data or outdated data associated with that. When these kind of things are there, AI is actually going to fill the gap with guesses. So if it is not having proper data, it can maybe trying to imaginate or try to create things which actually never happen. It is always going to be giving you the answers based on the pattern based output. So basically it's not true, it's not having any true understanding associated with that. No fact checking which is done by AI. You need to have at least a human being who's going to do the fact checking on the AI generated answers, but there is no internal fact checking mechanisms on the generative AI applications. Because of this, there are so many examples which we have actually in the history where people have used generative AI but they didn't got a correct answers. Even there were a couple of fake research papers which people have created for their PhD thesis. They have used generative AI to generate those kind of a PhD thesis kind of a white papers, and it was actually having a facts which was not the real fact. It was actually all the imaginary hallucinated which were generated actually inside that. Now, there are so many cases also which are available in which incorrect historical scientific facts were actually there, and these are the common issues with generative AI. Now, because of all these limitations of generative AI which are there, which can be created because of the knowledge gaps or accuracy issues, or maybe there are certain ethical risks are also available in that, we should be familiar with this kind of thing. Because misinformation, privacy, or even deepfakes are some of the common issues of AI. Now, when you're doing this thing, remember, how can we mitigate that thing? Well, the first and the most important thing which you have to do is you need to have a fact-checking mechanism set up with the human oversight. Only a human is going to be able to understand what kind of things are realistic and what are not. That's the reason while starting this particular thing, I told you that Copilot is a Copilot. It's not a main pilot. You are a main pilot. So you have to be making sure that whatever things which you're using, which are generated through Copilot, is actually valid, is actually proper for the audience, customers, or employees of your organization. And do not forget, you have to use AI responsibly. Keeping all this thing in mind, I want to add on one more thing, which is different types of models which are available. Now, I'm sure you've heard about something called DeepSeek R1. DeepSeek R1 is actually a reasoning model. Now, as of now, we actually have two different types of models available in the market. We have chat models and we have reasoning models. Chat models are actually going to help you in the natural language conversation because these are best for the responses based on your natural language conversation. On the other hand, reasoning models are going to be helping you in performing structured reasoning, logic, and problem solving kind of mechanisms. Some of the examples of chat models are ChatGPT, Bard, Copilot, and all. And some of the examples of reasoning models are maybe O1 model or DeepSeek R1 or symbolic AI kind of models. Now remember, both the models are actually having pros and cons, and that's the reason modern AI agents should use both of them. They should use combination of this thing. Even the latest version of Copilot is actually a Copilot which is AI agent, which is actually using chat model powered by reasoning models. So it's actually using both of them internally. Now, chat models are actually good in predicting next word based on the pattern. Because of that, it's fluent, it's context aware, and it's more creative responses. Basically, it's going to be more creative when it's going to give you responses. On the other hand, creativity is not there in the reasoning models. Reasoning models always use logical inferences, structured rules, and mathematical reasonings associated with that. That's where reasoning models are going to give you high accuracy associated with that. This shows me that this is my choice now. I want to go for more creativity or I want to go for high accuracy. Now, obviously, more creativity comes with issues like hallucination, lack of deep logic, and inconsistent, as well as high accuracy is going to come with the issues like it's going to be always rigid, it is lacking the flexibility in handling natural conversation. That's the reason, depends upon the scenario, you can actually use one or the other models, or maybe you can combine both of them if required. Now, let's start with Microsoft Copilot. As I told you, you are able to use Microsoft Copilot on copilot.microsoft.com. And if you're a beginner, you should always go and use copilot.microsoft.com instead of using this with other tools like Microsoft Office tools or maybe Edge browser and all that. When you go to copilot.microsoft.com, you will be able to do multiple things. Now, if I ask this question to Microsoft Copilot, that what is Microsoft Copilot? It's basically going to give me an answer that Microsoft Copilot is your versatile assistant, which is actually going to help you in the wide range of tasks. So if you have ever dreamed of having your personal assistant, then your dream came true because this assistant is actually going to help you in various tasks. Like it can answer questions, it can do brainstorming of the idea, it can write a content for you, it can organize tasks and help you in organizing tasks in a better way. It can do research on a particular topic. It can generate original images for you. It can also engage in the conversation. Now, these are some of the common tasks which your Copilot can actually do for you. And in order to do any of this task, you have to master one thing which is known as prompt engineering. That is the next and important term which you need to understand with practicals. So let's get started with that. But before we do this thing, let me highlight one thing, that the Copilot which you are going to use is actually something which is a free Copilot which is created for individuals. If you want to use something called Copilot Pro, which is a paid version available with this, it's going to give you some additional benefits associated with that, like it's going to give you integrations with the latest AI models and Microsoft apps also. As well as if you're working for any organization, there are high chances that your organization is already having Microsoft 365 apps with Copilot. In that case, this is going to be an organization-specific Copilot, and in that case, it's actually going to be more secure. So Microsoft 365 Copilots are actually built with enterprise-level security and privacy, where you are actually able to integrate your organization data into Microsoft Copilot without compromising on the data security. It's also going to help you to integrate with the enterprise application and services. I don't know which one you're going to use, but whichever you're going to use, prompt engineering is going to help you in both the cases same way. This slide is actually showing you that we have different copilots available for you. Now, I have already shown you various options with this, but this is your copilot.microsoft.com. This is your Bing chat-based copilot, and this is your Microsoft Edge-based copilot. Same way, if you go to Microsoft 365 applications in your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, you are going to get Copilot associated with that. Now, let's come to the point, prompt engineering. If you ask me what is prompt engineering, basically this is some kind of a technique which is helping you to create a prompt, and using this kind of a better prompts, you will be able to get maximum relevancy and accuracy in your completions. Don't get confused with the word completion, guys. Like, prompt is nothing but a natural language input. Completions are going to be the output which you're getting based on the prompt. So basically your response is actually known as completions. You will be able to specify formatting and style for your completions. You will be able to provide conversational context on that, and you'll be also able to mitigate biases and improve fairness in that. So all the logical reasoning, so all the logical advantages of prompt engineering are actually visible here. How can we use this? Well, there are multiple things which you can try, but before we do that thing, let's understand how Copilot is working and how it is actually different than the normal chatbot. Now, most people who are actually familiar with Copilot or who are using Copilot, they actually think like that Microsoft Copilot is nothing but some kind of a chatbot. Well, that's not true. Microsoft Copilot is not like a chatbot, because most people what think is, they think like we are going to provide some kind of a natural language text kind of an input, which we call prompt. So let's say I'm providing a prompt, create an agenda for next week's budget meeting. When I provide the prompt, Copilot is going to take that. In the background, we have large language model that's going to understand that input prompt using that encoder, decoder, which we discussed, and then it's going to use some kind of a training data on which it is based on, and it's going to give you the response which is generated here. Well, this is something which is a basic understanding of the Copilot work, but in real case, Copilot can be extensible. Basically, it's not like just a normal chatbot. It can do a lot many things for you when you want to do the customization with that. How? Well, that answer you'll get in this slide. If you really want to understand Copilot, you have to understand anatomy of a Copilot, in which in the background of Copilot, you have something which we call AI orchestrator. Yes, from your side, you're going to provide an input prompt, but when you provide an input prompt, it's not only going to associate with the large language model. In between, this AI orchestrator is actually helping you to connect with your existing data. If you want to integrate with your own data, it is 100% possible. If you want to build some kind of a customized logic on that, it is 100% possible. Now, there is a thing called Copilot Studio. If you don't know how to build a logic for your Copilot, you can check out Copilot Studio. And I also have a couple of videos on that in my YouTube channel. So you can check out those videos. You can just click on this video to get started with Copilot Studio. But you can add your own data. You can actually associate and build your business logic integrations with this, as well as if you have some kind of organization specific tools which you want to associate with this, that is also possible. So data associations, logic integration, and tools integration is something which you can do with Copilot. Not only that, in the background, your foundation language model as well as fine tuning with language model is also possible, because of which the Copilot is actually going to be more capable or giving you the different kind of a generative responses with that compared to any other normal chatbot which are there. Now, I hope you understood this, and if you understood anatomy of Copilot, you understand that this is not just like a normal chatbot. In order to use Copilot properly, you have to understand multiple methods of prompt engineering. There are various techniques, there are various methods which we are actually going to use with this. So what is prompt engineering? Well, I already explained that thing. So this is basically the input prompts kind of optimization which you're going to do. And when you do this thing, you have multiple methods to do that thing. Like the one which we initially use is something which is called zero-shot prompting. Basically, in this case, you're going to ask a question to Copilot without providing any kind of an examples. In this case, zero-shot prompting is not a very best way to do prompting. And that's why we have a better than that called few-shot prompting. Few-shot prompting is like we are going to provide some kind of examples, most of the time more than 1-2 examples we are going to provide, and then that is going to provide a better context for the Copilot. Now, don't worry, I'm going to show you the examples and the real-time demo of this kind of methods also. Also, if you want me to give you a step-by-step lab document kind of a thing for a specific methods of Copilot prompt engineering, you can just comment down that in this video, and I'm going to give you a document which is going to give you step-by-step prompt associated with that. Then we have chain of thought, which is actually a technique which is helping you to understand how exactly Copilot is thinking. So basically, it's going to encourage step-by-step reasoning to the Copilot. Now, chain of thought is very important prompting when you want to taste your language model also. If you want to do tasting of language model and you want to understand how exactly it is actually responding in the appropriate manner, you can actually use chain of thought prompting. And then we have role-based prompting, which is another important way to do prompting, where you're going to assign some kind of a role or a persona to provide a better context for your prompt engineering. You can say like, think like you are a developer assistant who's going to help me in Python development. Or maybe you can say you are a marketing writing assistant who's going to help me to create marketing brochures for a specific product. Or you can also say that maybe you are a Shakespeare kind of a novel writer and you're going to help me in writing a novel stories with that. Whichever persona, whichever role you want to associate with Copilot, it can understand that and it's going to give you responses based on that. Now, let's understand the first part of consideration for prompt. If you want to design a good prompt, you actually have to create a prompt with some proper details added on top of it. Now, I always say this thing that if you're using a one-liner prompt, those prompts are actually something which we call weak prompts. If you have a good prompt, then good prompt is basically designed with certain structures like this. Like if you see right now, I am giving you one example of the prompt here. And in the below section, I'm showing you how exactly this prompt is constructed. What kind of considerations we have to keep in mind. Like the first one, you should start with the specific goal in that particular prompt. Like in my prompt, I'm saying that summarize the key considerations for adopting Copilot. Now, when I do this thing, my goal is what? Summarization. That's my goal, and I'm specifying that thing clearly in the starting of the prompt. Then we have to provide a source for the grounding content of that. So basically, you have to mention that what kind of a data you want to summarize. I am saying here that you want to describe in this document. Basically, maybe with this prompt, I'm going to upload or attach one document, and based on the document, it's going to do the summarization. The third one is I have to add a context so that it can actually give me an appropriate response and relevance associated with that. I am saying in the context that I want to do the summarization for a corporate executive. So that is my context which I'm providing. And fourth, but important one, I have to be very clearly specifying my expectations with that. So I have to mention what kind of an expectation I have from Copilot when it's going to give me a summarization. I'm saying that format the summary as no more than 6 bullet points with a professional tone. So in that, I'm clearly specifying my expectation that what kind of a tone I want and what kind of a length I want for that summary. When I do this thing, these four things, goal, source, context, and expectation is actually going to give you a good prompt. So basically, a good prompt is going to have goal, source, context, and expectation. Remember, if you're not providing one of them, Copilot is going to guess it, and maybe the guess is going to be right or wrong. So suppose if you say, what will if I do not provide a context? Well, then it's going to guess the context, and maybe it can be wrong. So it's better to provide goal, source, context, and expectations in your good prompt. And when you do that thing, after that also, there are chances that you're not going to get the response perfect in the first attempt. So maybe the first iteration is not going to give you the perfect desired output, or maybe the desired responses in that. Then you have to do one thing, the step number 5, which is iterate, iterate, iterate. In the first iteration, if you're not getting the desired details, you iterate further, second time, third time. You ask some more questions into that, and further iterations are actually going to improvise as well as it's going to give you better responses with that. Now, in order to understand a good prompt and a weak prompt, let me give you a real-time example with my Copilot so that you can understand that better. I hope you understood these 4 things: goal, source, context, and clear expectation is something which is very important. If you understood this, let me switch to my Copilot and I'm going to give you one good prompt with that. As you can see here, I am here with my Copilot. I'm going to provide one good prompt right now inside this. And let's say the prompt which I'm providing here is this one. Now have a look at this. In this prompt, I'm just going to keep this on screen. I request you to please pause this video and just try to find out which one is goal, which one is source, which one is context, and which one is a clear expectation with this. I want you to take a pause of this video and then take your 10, 15, 30 seconds kind of a time. Think about which one is going to be goal, source, context, and expectation, and then you can resume this video where I'm going to answer this. I hope you have done this. Now, if you focus on this particular prompt, the first statement itself, I'm saying summarize the articles. Basically, this is my goal where I'm saying that I want to do the summarization of the article. Then I am specifying that the summarization is going to happen on this particular Wikipedia link. Now, this is a Wikipedia link which is having an article on London. So this is basically my source which I'm providing to this one. So this is my goal, this is my source, and then I am going to specify that I want you to summarize this article as a bulleted list of 3 to 5 interesting facts to help me to plan a trip. What is this? Help me to plan a trip is nothing but my context which I'm providing so that it knows that this summarization is for planning a trip to London. And then finally, I'm specifying that I only want 3 to 5 bulleted list which should be simply worded and concise. This is nothing but my clear expectations which I'm specifying inside this. Now, this is a good prompt. And when you do this thing, it's going to give you a better response compared to just a simple one-liner weak prompt. So remember, weak prompt and good prompt. Now you can see right now, I have given the prompt to Copilot and it's showing me that here are some of the interesting facts about London to help me to plan my trip. It understood my context properly. It's giving me a response which is just having 3 to 5 bulleted points also. So that is also correct and that is what I have expected. It's showing me things like London is having iconic landmarks, rich history, cultural diversity. Now all these things are true, but maybe I want some more information. After a good prompt, if you want more information, what you can do in the step number 5? Well, you can do iterate further. Maybe after this, I want to ask another question like, how easy is to get around the city? Because my Copilot already knows my context, already knows the source, is going to find out the answer of this question, and the moment I send this question, it's giving me a response within a second that getting around London is quite easy. Thanks to all its well-connected public transport system and pedestrian-friendly layout, you can maybe use London Underground tube, you can use buses, you can use walking, you can use bikes, or maybe taxis. Now, all these things are actually giving me the right answers because I have done the next iteration associated with that, which is basically asking me about further commute options available in the London. Now, remember, the first thing is you understand the prompt properly, so you provide a good prompt, and then to get more information from that, you're going to do maybe second, third, or fourth iteration to get the desired responses with that. So remember, the most important thing first you need to understand in the prompt engineering is the art of prompt. The art of prompt is going to have goal, context, source, and expectation. Goal is what do you want from Copilot? Context is why do you need it and who is involved? Sources are what information or samples do you want Copilot to use? And expectation is how should Copilot respond to best fulfill your request? If you are providing these 4 things in a prompt, that's going to be counted as a good prompt. Now, to understand this thing, you can see right now, let's say I want to do research on a particular topic using Microsoft Copilot. And I want to build up another prompt which is going to have goal, context, source, and expectation. Remember, you can shuffle this order also. Maybe source you're going to provide first and context you're going to provide later on. This is totally doable. If I give you an example of a researching on a particular topic with Microsoft Copilot, it is maybe going to look like this. You can see I've created a prompt in which my goal is I want to understand the benefits of a hybrid work model. And then I'm specifying a context as a company considers adopting a hybrid work environment. Then I'm saying the sources will be using academic articles, industry reports, and case studies from other companies. And then I'm saying a clear expectations that provide a summary of key findings, including statistics and examples. This is also going to be counted as a good prompt, and after that, I can do further iterations. I hope you understood this particular thing, and to build a good prompt, you have to take care of goal, context, source, and expectation. Now, if you're clear with this, it's a time we have to move forward to see some of the other prompt engineering techniques. Now, as you can see here, we are going to see some of the techniques where the first technique is saying that provide clear instructions. So when you provide a prompt, like the left side one is a weak prompt, which is just a one-liner. And it is actually saying, write a product description for a new water bottle. Now, when you provide a weak prompt, this does not mean that this is not going to work. It will work. It's going to give you a response. But the response is going to be very generic and it's going to have a very vague information inside that. Instead of that, if you provide clear instructions and if you be very specific, it's going to give you a better response. Like in this right side one, where I'm saying that write a product description for a new water bottle that is 100% recycled. Be sure to include that it comes in the natural colors with no dyes, and each purchase removes 10 pounds of plastic from our oceans. When you be specific like this, it's going to give you a better response and it's going to add all those details which you want. Also keep in mind, when you are using these prompts, you are actually going to be charged for the number of tokens which you're going to use with this. If you focus here, the left side response and the right side response is actually having similar number of words associated with that. So basically the cost of generation of this prompt is actually going to be more or less same, because it's going to have same number of words in that. But it's going to be more specific, it's going to be highlighting those details which you want. That's why better prompting is going to be very important. Next, you can actually provide primary, supporting and grounding content with your prompt. Sometimes we are going to provide a content as a grounding content using copy paste of multiple paragraphs in the Copilot chat, as well as you can also attach and upload a new additional document also with that, which you can use for a prompting further. Now when you're doing this thing, there are so many prompt engineering techniques which I can show you. If you want more details about this, or if you want a dedicated video only on the practical parts of the prompt engineering, just do let me know in the comment. We are going to create a separate video for you in that. In this case, this one is showing you that you can use section markers like dash 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 or hashes like this, and then you can provide a content with that. Like in this case, my prompt which I want to use is actually extract the key points from the above email and put them in bulleted list. But for this, I have provided an email in the section marker. So this is my email text which I have copy pasted. And then I have also provided supporting content that in this particular key point extractions, I actually want to focus on topics which I'm interested, like AI, webinar dates, and submission deadline. So maybe next time when I'm going to do my live webinar on the AI related things, this is going to be an email on that and is going to extract key points from that. Same way, you can also provide a grounding content where maybe you're going to provide multiple paragraph kind of a content as an input, and you can just provide a prompt after that, that where and where did the field of AI start. When you ask a question like this with the grounding content, it's going to give you answer from that particular content itself, and that is how it is going to be working. Now this is also one of the good way to provide a prompt, because using the primary, supporting and grounding content, you are actually going to explain a proper context of what kind of things you want to do with that prompt. Next, you can actually focus on requesting an output composition, which is very important one. You should clearly mention in this that what kind of an output you're expecting in this. Like in this case, we are specifying write a table in Markdown with 6 animals in it with their genus and species. Now when I say write a table in Markdown, it's going to give me an output which is going to look like a table in the Markdown. Same way I can say write an email on a specific topic for a specific target audience. Or maybe I can say write a 500-word blog on a specific topic. Or maybe I can say you generate an image, or you generate a logo, or maybe you can generate a banner ad. Now when you specify do this or generate this thing, that is like you're excessively specifying that what kind of an output composition you're looking for in that, which is a third good practice while doing a prompt association with the prompt engineering. This is something which is a role-based prompting example. So you can see right now, I'm specifying like a role which is going to be for the system, and we are saying that you are a casual, helpful assistant, and you will talk like an American old Western film character. When I provide this kind of a prompt, it's going to behave like an American old Western film character, and it's going to give me responses also according to that. If I ask a question like, can you direct me to the library? It's going to respond with, well, howdy there, stranger, the library. So basically, it's going to give you a response with that kind of a persona, and that is how the role-based prompting is going to be working. Then we have a conversational history with a few shot learning. So few shot learning is something which is going to be helping you to provide more than one examples, as I said earlier. In this case, if you see right now, I'm providing a role-based prompting with few shot learning. So in the role, I'm saying that you are an assistant that evaluates the sentiment of customer feedback. Basically, I'm trying to do opinion mining with this. And then I'm providing multiple examples, where the first example I'm saying that if the user is saying that was an awesome experience, the response which I got is positive, which is like a one single word kind of a response I'm getting. Then I have given second example, then I have given third example. In each one of them, I'm providing some feedback of the customer and I'm giving a response in one single word like positive or negative. And after that, when I ask a question like I'm going to provide a feedback which is you can't miss this, it understands that this is a feedback of the user and it's going to give me a response same in the one single word, because it understood from the three examples that I'm expecting a response in one single word, either positive or negative. And that's how few shot learning works. Next, we have something called chain of thought. As I said, this is going to be breaking down the processing or the thinking of the language models into a simplified step-by-step reasoning steps. This is how it is going to work. Let's say I'm providing a question here that what sport is easiest to learn but hardest to master. When I provide this question, I'm also saying that give a step-by-step approach of your thoughts ending in your answer. When I do this, it's going to understand that I'm talking about chain of thought and it's going to give me stepwise thinking associated with that. Like in the step one, it's saying that identifying the criteria for easy to learn and hard to master sport. If it is easy to learn, consideration that it should be having a simple rules and require minimum equipments, while if it is something which is hard to master, then it should require years of practice, and to perfect a very large variety of techniques should also be there inside that. Now, this is the step one of the thought process. Then maybe they are going to do a consideration for different sports like tennis, golf, and it's going to give me a comparative answer associated with that. Chain of thought, as I said, is very important when you want to test your model, and if your model is giving you some wrong responses, you can understand in which step they are actually making a wrong guesses or wrong assumptions with that, and then you can correct it. It's very important technique. Now, keeping all these techniques in mind, you have to understand one thing, that when you are utilizing your prompt in your day-to-day life, you maybe have to use some of the techniques combining with some other techniques also. Like in my case, I'm trying to use something which is sentiment analysis prompt. When I do this kind of a prompt, I'm going to specify analyze the sentiment of the customer review, which is maybe one review, or maybe I can give an array with the square bracket with multiple reviews with that, and it's going to give me a response associated with that. So do not forget to use things like double quotes or square bracket kind of a thing when you want to provide an input. Also understand one thing, you should be knowing what will be the response of that particular prompt. So as a human being, when you're using Copilot and when you provide a prompt, you should know which one is the right answer. For example, if I provide this prompt, analyze the sentiment of the customer review, the product is amazing, but shipping took too long. Guys, what do you think? What will be the sentiment of the customer if this is a review? Is it positive? It is negative? Or this is mixed? The answer is mixed, because it's just showing you product is amazing, but shipping took too long. Now, when I provide this kind of a prompt into my Copilot, it is also going to give me the right answer that this is a mixed sentiment, because sometimes customer is actually satisfied with the product, is visible, so he's just not happy with that. Next, you should provide clear instructions by giving a prompt. So when you are providing a prompt, be specific. Instead of just saying write an email, try to use write a professional email to a client apologizing for a delay in delivery. So that's going to be a better prompt. Use delimiters like single quote, double quote, square bracket kind of a thing, or you can use dash 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 kind of separators with that. Specify a length. So when you want to summarize something, or when you want to generate email or a blog kind of a thing, specify a length that write a 100-word summary or a 500-word blog, something like that. Also, sometimes if Copilot does not understand your input, you have to rewrite the question. So you rewrite the question with better context associated with that. For example, instead of saying, how does AI help in businesses? You should actually try, list 3 ways AI improves operational efficiency in business. This is obviously going to be a good prompt compared to just putting a one-liner like, how does AI help in businesses? So remember, these techniques are going to ensure that you are going to provide a better context to the AI, and AI is going to provide targeted insights to you. And that is how it's going to be working. It's going to be win-win for both of us. There are also a few things which you can try, like you can use progressive summarization, which is another technique of prompt engineering, in which you're maybe going to start with some particular lengthy response, Like I'm going to say first prompt that summarize this research paper in 200 words. Initially, you're going to get the response with 200 words. Then you're saying another prompt that condense this into a 50 words only. So you're going to get a shorter summary of that thing. And then you give a final prompt that provide a one sentence summary also with that. Now, maybe if you ask me why we are going to do this kind of a thing, there are two reasons are there. Sometimes you want to generate three different kind of an output for three different purpose, or maybe you want to generate three different output for three different audiences. Like maybe if my colleague is asking about the summarization of the research paper, I'm going to share the 200-word summary with him. But if a third-party person is asking me, I'm maybe just going to provide a one-sentence summary to him. Now, depends upon that, I'm going to show you a couple of demos with this, so just stay tuned. We are going to use progressive summarization, meta prompts, and everything. In meta prompts, we actually provide a proper instructions to our language model, and we can actually help model that where it is doing wrong. So where to improve. When you say this thing to model, that is what which is known as meta prompt. Like sometimes I can use these words like improve this response to make it more persuasive, or I can say rewrite this for the beginner audience, or I can say make this text more engaging. And when I do this thing, my prompts are going to be better and it's going to give me better results associated with that. Now, instead of just discussing about all these things, let's try to understand this with a short demo. So let me just go back to my Microsoft Copilot. In this Copilot, I'm going to start a new session. So I'm going to click on plus and I'm going to create a new chat session. Let's say in this chat session, first I'm going to provide a weak prompt. So let's say I've started with this prompt, which is write a blog post on the personal finance. When I provide a weak prompt, will this work? Answer is yes, it is going to work. Weak prompt is also going to work, but it's going to give me a very vague information associated with this topic. So when I say write a blog post on the personal finance, you can see it worked. It's showing me personal finance, a roadmap to financial wellness. I got a blog which is having certain bulleted points associated with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points are there, and then I have a conclusion. Now, this is mostly going to talk about some generalized information about personal finance, which everyone knows about. Instead of this weak prompt, which is actually write a blog post on the personal finance, if I want to improvise this and if I want to make a better prompt from this, I can maybe just do the first improvisation like this. So this time, I'm going to provide a good prompt. You can see right now in this, I'm specifically saying that write a 500-word blog. So I'm first giving a length. Second, I'm saying I want a 500-word beginner-friendly blog, which is another good thing. So I'm just specifying the target audience also with that. I'm also saying that this blog will be on the importance of right use of credit card. Now, personal finance is a big thing. Instead of that, I'm just saying that I want to focus on the right use of credit card in the personal finance. So I'm being specifically saying this is a topic which I'm interested with. When I give this prompt is going to give me much better result. Instead of some generalized vague information, it's showing me smart credit card usage, unlocking financial power. And it's showing me credit card as a financial tool, why credit card misuse is dangerous, the importance of responsible credit card usage, and it's showing me certain points inside that. Now, obviously, this is a better blog, but this is a 500-word blog. Now, let's say this is something which I want to use for my credit card campaign, which I'm going to do for my organization next month. Now, this blog I'm going to write as a marketing blog associated with the credit card usage and good and bad practices of credit card. With this blog, let's say I want to create some more campaign specific content. So I got a 500-word blog. Now I'm saying thank you. Remember, saying thank you or please kind of a words is actually going to improvise your responsive for Copilot. So I'm saying thank you for this blog. Now, can you help me with 3 variations of SMS which I can use for my next month premium credit card campaign? So I'm giving a context that next month I have a premium credit card kind of a campaign, and for that I am specifying a goal that I want a 3 variations of SMS with this, and I'm saying using above information. So basically it's going to use the information of my blog, and based on that is actually going to give me 3 variations of the SMS. Now when I do this, you can see it's showing me certainly here are the engaging SMS variations with this, and it's showing me variation 1, variation 2, variation 3. Now this three SMS which they are showing me is actually showing me some text like unlock a world of rewards, a financial empowerment with premium credit card, cashback. Now, okay, I like this thing, but I didn't like much actually. So I'm just adding some more prompt, which is nothing but a meta prompt now. So, so my Copilot has given me the response, but I want to improvise this thing. So I'm going to say, please, can you make it more engaging for the younger audience? So I'm just specifying that the audience is going to be younger, maybe people who are having less than 35 or 30 kind of an age. And then I'm specifying, can you make it more engaging? So these three SMS variations are good, but I want to improvise this thing, and that's why I have given the meta prompt. When I do this thing, it's showing me absolutely, here are three variations, three vibrant and youthful SMS variations. So you can see now they are showing me a creativity in this. It's showing me variation number one, level up your spending game. You can also observe with the words also they are showing me variations, as well as the creativity is visible here when they are using the emojis and icons associated with that. Now compared to these three SMS variations, I think this one are better, and I hope you agree with me on that. So meta prompt has improvised this. It's going to make it more engaging as well as for the younger audience, which I said. Now I'm saying that, thank you, I really liked the third variation, let's say. So I'm just saying, thank you, I really like the third variation. So they have given me three variations, but I'm saying that, yes, I really like the third variation. So it is actually showing me, you're welcome, Maruti. I'm thrilled that the third variation resonates with you. Now I'm going to give another task. So it's like I'm going to do further iteration, and I want my Copilot to give me another thing. First, it has given me 500 words blog. Now it has given me three variations of the SMS which I can use for the campaign, and my Copilot already knows the context that I'm going to do a campaign. So I'm just going to say, can you help me with a banner ad for the third variation? Because I like third variation, which it already knows. I'm just saying, can you help me with the banner ad for the third variation? When I do this thing, based on the word banner ad, it will understand that I'm asking about generating an image. It's automatically going to generate an image, which I can maybe use with my SMS variation. And you can see it has given me an image, which is actually a good image, which is showing me a premium credit card on that. And then a girl is actually pointing to the credit card. So maybe this is a perfect image which I can use with that SMS. Now, there are chances, maybe I do not like certain things about this image, then I can change it. I can say that I didn't like the colors. Can you use bright golden color with dark brown color and make this image more realistic? So I do not want this kind of image. I'm saying make this image more realistic. I submitted another prompt and they are going to do the changes. Maybe this time I'm going to have bright golden and dark brown kind of a colors with that, and maybe it's going to make it more realistic. You can see I got dark golden. It's giving me an image which is actually showing me a premium credit card with the golden color with that. It's shining also. And compared to this image, maybe this is more realistic, which I can use in my campaign. Now I'm saying maybe I can say I like this or I didn't like this, and I can use it. Also, guys, if you understood all these prompt engineering techniques, I surely give you this suggestion that you should try this thing by yourself by giving different kind of a prompts with that. If you want me to share a step-by-step prompt guide or a lab document with this, just comment down that in this video and I'm going to share this thing with you. You can also reach out to us on our email ID, or you can send me a message on my LinkedIn, and I'm going to give you a step-by-step guide or a lab which is going to have different kind of a prompts associated with your role. Now, so whatever we have tried so far, let's try to recap this thing now. So remember, whatever best practices for prompt engineering are mentioned here. Make sure that you're going to provide clear and concise prompts. Make sure that your request is unambiguous. You're going to keep it brief without sacrificing clarity. You're going to use positive instructions and if then else kind of a statements with that. You're going to experiment with different styles. So just make sure that you're going to provide proper creative language, good tone associations with that. You're going to give Copilot a point of view from which to answer. So you're going to provide a better context with that. So you can specify role play scenarios, or you can provide a better proper context with the proper consideration for the prompt. Know what to avoid when creating prompt. So make sure that you're going to avoid very vague and overly general prompt informations with that. Do not cram too many questions into one prompt. It's something which is one of the common bad practice which is there. Give a one by one question, get the response based on that, and then try to get the further iterations associated with that thing. Don't assume Copilot has the context. So you provide the context. That is the best practice. Next, understand Copilot's limitation. It can hallucinate. It is maybe going to be biased. So you have to take care of the proper things with that. Optimize for repetition is a simple repetitive task. So make sure you're going to do that. Also break down the complex task for the better results. Just break down into multiple tasks and steps associated with that. Be polite. When you're going to use Copilot, be polite. Use basic etiquettes. Be a gentleman. Always use the words like please, express gratitudes. If you're going to be a gentleman, Copilot is going to give you better response. Instead of that, if you, let's say, try to be abusive, or if you provide some nonsense things in the prompt, it can crash also. So that's a possibility that your Copilot can give you worst results, or it can get crashed also if you do not use it properly. Be curious, ask preliminary questions, and then for better understanding the problem, provide a specific instructions with that. No matter what happens, the last and the final suggestion is iterate, iterate, iterate. Just do multiple iterations. Don't give up after one prompt. It's a dynamic process, so make sure you're going to provide more and more things associations with that. Remember, Microsoft Copilot is for everyone. So it's actually going to empower every user. Maybe you are a sales or a marketing person. Maybe you're a person who's dealing with operations, or maybe you are an HR. No matter which role you belong to, Copilot empowers every user. The only thing is you have to master the art of prompt engineering first. And that is why we are doing this thing. Last but not the least, some people ask me this question that Maruti, after all these prompts and all, where can I see multiple prompts? Where can I try these things? Well, I'm going to give you two options for that. First is you can actually go to this link, which is aka.ms/copilot gallery. When you go there, there are hundreds of prompts which Microsoft has given to you for your Copilot prompts. And basically this gallery is giving you for various kind of tasks related to a specific job roles. This is really amazing thing. Still, if you're not happy with the Copilot prompt gallery, or maybe you want more prompts specific to your business role or your requirement, I have an option number 2 also. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a message that Maruti, I want a prompt engineering kind of a lab, which is going to have a step-by-step examples with few shot, zero shot, or maybe role-based prompting, or maybe chain of thought kind of a thing. I'm going to give you a lab document or a step-by-step prompt engineering technique guides with that, and you just need to send me a message on my LinkedIn. So just subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you can just send me a message, or you can comment down into this particular video also for any of these things. With this, I want to show you one more technique now, which is actually useful for image generation. So let me show it to you how we can actually generate better images with Microsoft Copilot. One last thing before we start, actually, I want to create one more chat session. And then in this chat session, I want to focus on generation of the image. In the previous sessions, I told you that if you give a good prompt with goal, source, context, and expectation, is going to work very well. In the last few things, I have shown you that how you can improvise your prompt with multiple iterations. Now I'm going to show you the third important thing, which is like how we can generate a better images with the help of Copilot. Now remember guys, when you are dealing with image generation, sometimes multiple iterations will not work. So even if you provide multiple iterations, it's not going to give you the desired image. When you want to focus on generation of the image with Copilot, you have to be very specifically giving details of the image inside that. Now let me give you an example. I'm going to try one of my prompt, which is going to help me to generate an image. And I want you to focus on this. Just see this good prompt and just see the details which I'm adding in this prompt. When you want to generate an image, be specifically mentioning all the details here. So just be specific. I'm saying that generate an realistic image. So I'm specifying what kind of an image I'm looking for. Is it a realistic image? It is a watercolor painting. Is it something which is an illusion or an art? Or maybe this is something which is Picasso style painting. You have to mention what kind of an image you want it to generate. Also specify the details of that image very in depth. For example, I'm saying I want a realistic image of an eccentric female gardener with a sun hat in the tinted blue glasses, wearing a pair of overall with a dark green t-shirt, sitting next to the basket of freshly cut dahlias and orchids. I'm giving a hell lot of details in this. Also, I'm saying the gardener should be sitting on a wooden bench covered in vines in front of a wall of an out of focus greenhouse filled with plants. You can see the details which I'm adding. I'm specifying what kind of a clothes she's wearing, where is she sitting, what is next to her, what kind of a background is there. I'm giving all the details of this particular image, and the more details you add, Copilot is actually going to take care of that and is going to give you better results. Now when I do this thing, you can see it's generating an image. This time these images are going to be much better than what you can generate with one liner or even with the multiple iterations kind of a prompt. You can see the result. I got an image. Now you can see each detail which I have given is actually visible here. I have a female gardener. She is sitting inside an out of focus kind of a greenhouse which is there in the background. This looks like a portrait image because this is out of focus and this is focus. There is a basket with the freshly cut flowers. This is a wooden bench. She's wearing the green t-shirt, the glasses, everything is taken care. Now this is an example where this is a good prompt with all the details for the image generation. For image generation, make sure multiple prompts will not help you. So instead of going with multiple iterations, try to add more details in one particular prompt. That's going to change the game. Trust me on this. I hope this particular session was very informative and interesting for you, and I hope you understood all the useful concepts with this. If you enjoyed this, then I request you to please click on the like button, bell icon, and please subscribe to our channel. This is really going to help us to grow and is going to help us to create this kind of more videos for you. Feel free to share it with your friends. This is Maruti Makwana signing out for the day. Thank you so much. I'll see you later.